and, and now we can watch the guys get in shape for the upcoming year. We do feel good about our draft, but as you know, we still got to put pads on them. We got to watch them play. It takes a little time to really evaluate where they really are, and that's what we're going to do. So, open for questions.
Doug, collectively, what was as a group, what was your mission in the draft? And do you feel like you hit on everything that you were trying to do?
No, it's still some guys out there that we would have loved to have had, but because the situation we was in, the place we was in, the guys that we wanted them and where we wanted them was either gone or wasn't there when we got there. So really, that's what a draft is all about. You put a value on a guy, and you don't draft him because if he's not where you want to draft him, you don't go down to get a guy if he's not there when your time comes.
When you look at the overall class, what qualities do you feel like this class brings that maybe you were looking for or hoping to add?
I think when you look at our draft class, we got pretty much everything that can help this football team. It's like I said all along, we do like our football team. I think what these guys are going to do is fit in with what we already have and is going to make us a better football team. At every position, whether or not it was at the safety position, defensive back, whether or not it was at wide receiver with Quinn. We know from a defensive line standpoint, we've helped ourselves with Appy at a safety that can be that third guy and special team guy. So, and even at the middle linebacker slot with Hamilton, we feel like we've helped ourselves to make this football team as a whole a better football team.
Can you take us inside the room as the discussions are happening, first at 44 and then as you guys are getting to be on the clock again at 59 regarding Darius and all the rumors floating out and kind of the decision-making process to go ahead and draft him?
So you don't want to deal with 13, you want 44. I'm just messing with you, man.
Hey, if you were talking about it at 13.
No, 13, we got our guy. He was there. But no, at 44, the scary part about them at 44 was the fact that the guy that we had targeted out of the guys that we had on the board, he still was there. And we took a chance because at that time the running backs was moving pretty good. We took a chance of moving down to 59. But what 59 afforded us another draft pick in the third round to get another good player. And we had some players on the board. Geis wasn't the only guy on the board. We had about 6 or 7 other players named on this board. And usually when you sit there, you see when one go, you pull that one down. The next one go, you pull him down. And just so happened at 59, Geis and a couple more guys were on the board, and we chose Geis out those other guys.
There was never any discussion in terms of trying to of the outside influences that might have had other teams taking him off their board. All those things you were comfortable with.
Well, the good thing about that, I like the way you put that, the outside influences. We do have some inside information and some influence that helped us along the way, and plus we had met with the kid. We went to dinner with the kid. We brought the kid up here. Where Geis is from, I'm from the same area basically. I knew Geis. I knew who he is. I know where he come from. And when you talk about a kid who has produced on the field the way he has, other than what was out there, and you look at this kid, man, he's just a happy-go kid who liked to play football. And I think we was fortunate enough to get a guy like that.
A couple of months ago, you said big needs for defensive line and running back, and those were your first 2 picks. You talk about best available player. Everybody in your position around the league does. But at some point does need factor into the process, the grading, the decision-making, everything along those lines?
If we think he's the best available player at that need. And when you look at this whole situation and the names, and I know a lot of people have thrown out some names, but at the same time, I'm a firm believer, whether or not it's offensive line, whether or not it's defensive line, the big boys make the little boys look better. I don't care how you cut up. Little boys don't make big boys look better. The offensive line can make the running backs, the quarterbacks, and receiver look pretty good. And the D-line can make the defensive backs look pretty good. But I haven't seen any defensive back that made the big boys up front look better. So when you get there and you get no discussion who's there, who fits in with your football team, not so much a need, but who fits in with what you're looking for. Fortunate enough, Payne was there. Fortunate enough, Geis was there. The football guards was looking after us this past weekend.
You talked about the big boys. There was some thought going into the draft that you guys would target a guard. That didn't happen. How do you feel about your O-line situation now going forward?
I still feel good about our offensive line, but and I'm going back to what I say, JP, is the guard that we targeted wasn't there. So you don't do a reach. You don't go down to get a guy because you need that guy. So you got to go on and pass on. There was some guys on the board, but at our pick, those guys weren't on the board where we wanted to pick those guys. They was down further, and because it wasn't about the need as much as the value of what we're picking at that particular time. So when it was our time to pick and you look over there at the guards, you look over there at the centers or what have you, if they wasn't there during the time we was picking, we didn't go down. If it had been a guy up high, we would have picked that guy. But everything that was down, you don't go down to get a guy because of reach, because of need.
Doug, other areas that you guys did not address in the draft, tight end and edge pass rushers. With tight end specifically, you only have basically three guys, the three guys that were back last year, and a couple other guys deeper on the roster. You feel comfortable with what you have, or do you foresee adding some veterans at this point?
We feel pretty good at tight end because Jordan Reed is progressing with his injury, and like we talked about Vernon Davis before, we got a young guy in Sprinkle. We feel pretty good there. As far as pass rusher, I think we had a guy, I don't know how many sacks he had, 13. How many did Kerrigan had? He's still full go. I think Preston Smith. What can help those guys is what these guys, a healthy Jonathan Allen and a healthy Payne and I-9ers and McGee can do. If they push the pocket, which I think they could, he can flush those guys to all the pass rushers. So that makes pass rushers. If you remember back in the day when Tampa was going, Warren Sapp was a beast up front, and Simeon Rice was killing people because he was flushing the quarterback. That's what we got to do, and I think what we've done is stabilize the middle of that defensive line. That's going to give those guys a little more opportunity. That's why I say we like our football team as a whole.
With drafting Christian, do you think does that look like gives you some flexibility to maybe move Inseki inside where you experimented some with doing that last year?
Situation. And the second has played a little guard. If we get to that point that we feel like we're comfortable with moving in and drafting Jerron is certainly a plus for us. But at the same time, we got a young tackle. If you look around this league, one of the most valuable players on the football team is offensive tackles and rushers on the end and quarterbacks and defensive backs. So we was fortunate enough to get Kristen, who I think on developing a pretty good football player.
Doug, what exactly was it about Payne that made him that guy at 13?
Wow, the same thing as about Jonathan last year that made him that guy at 17. Pretty good football player. I think his career speaks for himself. And if you watch the tape like we do, we probably looked at every football game that Payne played this year. And you're talking about on a pretty good football team, but you're talking about a very consistent football player. And one game that stands out, he completely dominated the championship game. And that's what you're looking for in the football player up front.
You guys have drafted now 4 guys from that Alabama defense over the last 2 years. Just a coincidence, or, clearly they have some good players, but why so many from that?
Well, number one, it's about good players. And one thing we can't deny that Alabama has had some pretty good players over the last few years. And if it's a guy that's sitting there you feel like is the best player for your team, whether or not he's from Alabama or Grambling or Southern, you got to go get that guy. And just so having Payne was sitting there who played on a real good football team over the last few years. So it wasn't about Alabama. It was about the position, the guy there, and his ability to play the game the way we wanted to be played, and that's why we went there.
Is there something that you notice from the traits from players from that school when they come here that makes it maybe even more desirable to add them, though?
No, but I think it's a good thing that him and Johnson has played together. They get a chance to play together, and Ryan Allen on the end, and then you got a middle linebacker. All those guys, when you think about you got to really go in the room and listen to the interview and listen to these guys on the board when you put them on the board and you talk about certain things in defense, how well they're prepared. And this game in the National Football League is more of a mental game sometimes than it is a physical game, is being in the right place at the right time, and these guys know how to do it.
What did you guys like about Jerron? Just what do you think he can develop in? What does he bring currently, Christian?
I can't say what the guy going to be. All we saw what he has, and that's athletic ability. He was able to swing from the right side to the left side. He got great feet. If there's a knock on the kid, and I think for some of these gurus have said that he's not strong enough, but that's to be debatable. And he come here, and fortunate enough, we got two pretty good tackles. If we can keep those guys healthy, he get a chance to develop in a pretty good tackle and learn from one of the best coaches and the players that's going to be in front of him.
Jamison's been up and down as a punt returner. He's also had an expanded role in your offense. You guys took two guys in Stroman and Quinn who returned punts in college. Do you imagine one of those two guys as your punt returner as soon as this year?
At this point, Jamison's still a punt returner. But at the same time, if you got one of those guys that's going to be active on game day, you certainly want to take a load off of Jamison if you can. You don't want to just put a guy out there because he can catch the punt, but you want a guy that can do some things with it. If Jamison could just play the slide and play football, I think you'd take a lot off him, and the other guy could do those jobs if we had to.
How much debate or discussion was there with Geis about the fact that he was still available that low, and the concerns that maybe other teams had that allowed him to slip, and was that something that entered your team's thought process too when it came to deciding whether to take him?
Well, the good thing about that, what other teams thought don't necessarily mean what we thought. That's some players that win this draft that we probably didn't have on the board. At the same time, it all depends on the team. We talking about a guy that we had in the first round on the draft board. When you talk about a value pick, you got to say that Darius Geis is a value pick that will fit in perfectly with this football team. And when he's there at your pick, you got to take advantage of it and pick that guy. And we did that. We didn't let what other people say influence us. What influenced us is the information that we had gotten from him and the people around him. We had a lot of sources that we talked to.
And so you had none of those concerns? That wasn't a topic of conversation?
No, you and I both know the way social media and the media and a lot of other things happen out there when it comes to players. Most of them take one thing and they run with it. Unfortunately, they don't know the kid. I think you got to give the kid some credit to say that for where he come from and what he's accomplished and what he's done, we take it from that standpoint.
Yeah, back up to the top of the draft. Right behind you, the Packers made a big deal with the Saints, moving way back, first rounder next year. Did you get a call with something similar, and if so, why'd you stick where you were?
I'm not going to say exactly who called, but we had about 2 or 3 calls. And, we had to look at it, and we talked about the guys. Like I said, we had the guys on the board. And what you tell them, we don't know yet. We got to see if we're on the clock. If the guy that we want is not there, then you can call them back and see who they want to make the deal. But you don't make the deal unless all the guys that you have up front of you are not on the board anymore. So, yeah, we got some calls. But at the same time, fortunately, we didn't make them. We got the guy that we wanted.
The players picked right before you were Vita Vea and Minkah Fitzpatrick, 2 players where obviously you took Payne, same position. You took a safety later in the draft, 2 very high-level prospects. Did it in any way that make it easier on you guys to not have to sort through those players at that point?
All I can say, we had some names on the board, a lot of names on the board. And, I'm not going to call the names because they're not here. I do know Payne was on the board. And when we got to that pick, that's who we picked. And I think that's the way the draft unfolded. Thanks, Doug. All right, guys. Thank you.